Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. And we're here today with special guest, Tzivia Gover, who's here to share with us her new book, Dreaming on the Page. Tap into your midnight mind to supercharge your writing. So welcome to the show, Tzivia Gover.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about your book. I have to say I was very impressed with your book. And my goodness, I'm just so fascinated with your background. Like, what even got you into becoming a certified DreamWork professional?
Well, that is a very happy thing. I just love hearing that all the time because it is literally a dream come true to be a professional dream worker. And I've been interested in my dreams, or my dreams have been interested in me all my life. They've always been a source of challenge, comfort, guidance, all sorts of spiritual sustenance, psychological healing, pretty much since I became conscious of them. But then later in my life, about 12 or 13 years ago now, when things sort of broke down, which is when these transitions seemed to take place. My relationship of 18 years ended. I lost my job. My daughter went off to college, and things were just not going well for me. I decided to fill the crater that had opened up in my life with my passion, and I started to reach out to learn about dreams. And through a series of synchronicities, which once we start tapping into our dreams, that's what happens. I found the Institute for Dream Studies and became first a student there. And then I ended up actually working for that institute for many years.
Such a fascinating background. I really appreciate you going over that with us. And my goodness, the title of your book, Dreaming on the Page. So, what does that really mean?
So, the first thing that anyone tells you when you ask them, how do I remember my dreams? How do I start working with my dreams? Is to write them down. And I am a writer myself. I've been writing and dreaming for, as long as I can remember. And so putting those two things together, dreaming and writing, is pretty magical. So what dreaming on the page means is pretty simple. We write our dreams. We also use the knowledge we have of the dreaming mind from science, spirituality, and psychology to supercharge our writing efforts. So we get imagery from our dreams to use in poems or stories, or we might get a plot from a dream or a location to sort of insert into a story. And when we use materials from our dreams in our writing becomes more deep and meaningful, authentic, and alive. And the flip side is when we write down our dreams, we tap into more of that meaning and guidance. So this book sort of shows how these two things interact with each other and how we can use them for personal growth, development, and just also the fun and joy of creativity.
So, how do we incorporate dream work and use that to become a better writer?
Well, there are a lot of ways. So, one real basic way is once we start to have a little understanding of what happens in the dreaming mind from a neuroscientific point of view, we can see that our dreams can really help us with our writing. I'll just give you a couple of quick examples, and there's more in the book. But for example, the parts of our brain that make metaphor, and we do have several parts of our brain that are devoted to helping us make those comparisons and make meaning from them, are highly activated when we're asleep and dreaming. Also, dreams are very visual, so we get great imagery in our dreams. So those two things alone are two things that writers want more of. They want, meaningful metaphor. They want vibrant and memorable images. So if we know a little bit about the dreaming mind, quite simply, we can take advantage of it by writing first thing in the morning. Or, as I often do, it is to write late at night. I'll often start writing poetry when I should be asleep, when it's past my bedtime, so to speak. And then the other part of that is that we can take that imagery, the characters from our dreams, and plop them into our stories. Those are some pretty unique and memorable landscapes and characters and plot twists that we get from our dreams and that we can use in our writing. They work together so beautifully.
Does everyone dream? Because I've often heard of people say, well, I never remember my dreams.
And that, I'm glad you asked, because you really, just from one of the examples I gave, just using the knowledge of the dreaming mind to decide when to write shows you don't have to remember the content of the dreams to be helped by this method. So to answer your question, yes, everybody dreams several times each night. Some people have more difficulty remembering. But again, in the book, I give basic instructions on dream recall. And beyond that, how to become more active in your dream life. So it's not just waiting for dreams to happen, but we can practice dream recall and get better at it. And once we get there, we can build on that skill by practicing asking our dreams for guidance on specific questions to do with our writing and not. But you don't need to remember dreams to take advantage of this, because you can get yourself into a meditative state. And I have examples of how to do that in the book, to get yourself into what I call the writer's dream, that sort of flowing state where you're hooked into your creativity and you've got your inner voice critic quieted so that you can really be free and imaginative on the page.
Well, I was real impressed by your expression of meditation. So bringing that all together, I think, says it all.
Absolutely. Yeah. Meditation is one of my favorite things because, we might find we don't have time to meditate, but if you find yourself sleepless in the middle of the night, or, those moments before you fall asleep, all tucked in cozy in bed, you can practice some of these meditations that I include, meditating on the pillow, asleep.
Well, and is this a practice that we can commit to and develop kind of our own times when we're writing?
Yeah, that's a big part of what this book is all about. It's creating a practice both to make bedtime an inviting and cozy time so that you want to go to sleep and dream and, have that nice expansive 8 to 9 hour period to really let yourself sleep and dream. And then also practices so that you can have a sustainable writing habit that works for you, not something that you beat yourself up with, like, oh, I was going to write every day, but I can't do it, to find really simple habits that you can start building into your life, even if it's 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes, whatever really works for you. We want to build on success, not make ourselves feel shamed or less than because we couldn't keep up with some grand plan.
Well, and do we interpret our own dreams? Do the dreams interpret themselves? Because out there's all sorts of, ways to analyze your dream, and everything has a different meaning. It kind of seems when we go from one place to another.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm a writer. I am a proud word nerd. So I love every kind of dictionary, and thesaurus, but the one kind of dictionary I'm not sold on are dream dictionaries. And that's because no one can interpret your dream for you. There's not a one answer for what a particular dream image or symbol or experience means for you, because your dreams are custom tailored for you. They come from your own memories and experiences, hopes and fears. So yeah, you put it nicely just before. We let the dreams interpret themselves. So when we spend time on the page with a dream, sometimes just writing the dream down, that happened to me this morning, you start getting ahas like, oh, now I see what that dream was trying to say. Sometimes it's that simple. Or by spending 5, 10, or 15 minutes playing with a poetic form for your dream. Just as you spend that time, the dream isn't trying to confuse us, it's trying to enlighten us. So the dreams will just unfold for us when we give them time and, with a little bit of knowledge and direction.
So, what if the dreams are mundane? It seems like we're just like doing nothing, maybe just going for a walk
Right.
or sitting in our house or something that just seems like there's no other story with it. What do we do then?
Well, that's a great question. I'm laughing a little bit to myself because you asked the question very politely. I had one student who said, I always have bathroom dreams. Like, how am I going to get a poem out of that? And we did a real simple exercise. We had her start each line of her poem within this dream and just play with it and see what happens. And she got the most humorous poem out of that. I wish I knew it by heart so I could share it with your listeners. But you start with where you are. There are a lot of the sort of, I think I gave at least 40 or more prompts and exercises in the book for writing to inspire and trigger writing. So for your example, the taking a walk, that might involve bringing some more imaginative experience to the dream or combining that dream with waking events and alternating lines. So there's all kinds of ways to play with those so-called boring dreams.
Well, and what if we have dreams that have villains in it? I mean, I know we try to spend most of our time staying away from the bad guys as much as possible. So if they show up in our dreams.
Oh, I love this question. So that's one of my favorites. And, direct that question to Stephen King next time you chat with him and Stephanie Meyer, who wrote the, those vampire books that are so fascinating. People have made lots of money turning their scary dreams into stories. And those are two authors that have used elements from their dreams in their stories. And Stephanie Meyer says that the whole, her whole career was built from a nightmare, a scary dream. So when we spend that time with a nightmare on the page, one thing I suggest people do is start by taking a step back because they really are scary and maybe writing it in the third person instead of I, say she or he. And so two things happen. You sort of tamp down the fear element so that you can spend time with that dream and find the story in it. And again, rather than being scared away from the dream, you're spending time with it and you might find out what that dream is trying to tell you.
So approaching it from a third person sometimes helps if it's like you're having a dream
Yeah.
about a family member that you have discord with or something.
Any scary or disturbing dream it can help with, or really any dream, because it gives you a little bit of distance so you can start to see things from a fresh perspective. And if it is a scary dream that you're hesitant to spend time with, that third person perspective, because it is a little more distant, can help you stay with it for just a little longer, maybe just enough time to start to see what that dream's trying to reveal to you about your psychological state or a relationship or, something that you're, quote, running from during the day or feel attacked by. Those emotions of running from something or feeling attacked by something can show up in a dream as a chase scene or an attacker coming with a knife or a gun. So yes, spending time with it in that way can really help.
So, what are some ways or some exercises that we can use to jumpstart our writing?
Great question. Well, one reason that dreams are so helpful in this regard are that they're just there. Every night our mind is spinning out narratives. So for those of us who remember them, we have an easy shortcut. So we can jumpstart our writing just simply by starting to write down our dreams and noticing, if we start to feel a little tug or a pull that there's a story or a poem or a song lyric there. And if you do remember your dreams, one of the simplest and easiest way to start trying to see what literary value they might have is to do something like I mentioned earlier, to start each line with "in this dream," or to try to write a story from the perspective of someone or even something, an object, in the dream's perspective. So if you have a dream about a tidal wave overwhelming you, you might write poem or a story or just a journal entry from the point of view of the tidal wave. So those are all fun ways to get started.
Is there a way that we can better structure our and give our books like form as we're getting them together? Because can imagine there's many different layers that are there, and trying to see what fits where could be a challenge.
Oh, yes. So now you're talking about once you get a little farther on in the process, or if you're a writer who's experienced or has accumulated a lot of pieces of writing, how can you then start to put it all together? And I always, I think that there's probably about a third of the book is dedicated to this part of putting our work together. So much of the book is about the process oriented part, the part where we just delight in the natural creativity and flow. But then, yeah, we want to give our pieces structure. We want to give them a title. We want to edit and revise. And so there are lots of tips here on how to re-envision, revise our work to make it ready to go in a book, or even just to share at an open mic or to share in a circle of friends. But in other words, to sort of get it gussied up and ready for the public. So that's absolutely part of the whole process. I think of that as manifesting and making dreams come true, right? Taking it out of the imaginary world into the physical world.
I love that. It really is giving it like a breath of life.
Yeah.
Bringing that all together. Well, and it has me kind of thinking, what happens when someone says, well, I've got writer's block. I can't write anything. What do you do then?
Oh, I absolutely address that with sort of a fun story in the book of when I've taught writing in all different settings, from colleges to elementary schools, and in particular to adults and young adults who don't think of themselves as writers. So I had one young student who was probably, I can't remember exactly, but in about third or fourth grade, who waved his hand wildly and he said, Miss, I can't write. I have writer's blank. And I just thought that was so cute. Instead of writer's block, writer's blank. But one of the things that dreams teach us is while we're dreaming, our inner critic, which we really do have this sort of judging sort of voice in our mind that's in the prefrontal cortex, and that's dozing, we could say, or deactivated while we're dreaming. So when we're dreaming, we have this sort of free flow. There's no writer's blank there or writer's block. Our dreams are prolific. They're always churning out stories. So for me, just knowing that helps me have confidence, whether I remember my dreams or not, that I have stories inside of me, and we all do. We're natural storytellers. So that's just one shift in focus that can help with writer's block. And, I give lots and lots of other suggestions and jump starts in the book to help people get past that. But just to remember that it is your birthright to be a storyteller, and to express those stories. And your dreams every night are a reminder that that's true.
Where do you think people get hung up the most?
I think it's those judging voices. So there's a lot to say about this. When you think about it, when we are babies, I have a brand new granddaughter, so I'm thinking about this and noticing it a lot. They're just so naturally expressive. We start out naturally expressive, and dance and music we discover on our own. But writing is the one thing we have to learn from someone else, like in school. And so I think that gives us a lot of judging voices, and that's why we get stuck. We have a lot of voices that say, anything from my handwriting's not good to I'm too stupid or I don't have anything to say. So I think that's where we get stuck. So giving yourself the gift of the freedom to just put on the page whatever comes to your mind. You can start in the middle. You don't even need to start at the beginning. It doesn't need to be something big. Describe something, describe a dream, or describe what you see around you. And once the pen and the hand start flowing, you just notice that more comes. So I think it's a lot getting around those inner voices that got stuck there when we were really young, and not letting them run the show.
Well, that learned behavior can get us in trouble,
It
so
can, yeah. Those
it's
well-meaning teachers sometimes.
well, it's interesting. So many of us have that type of story. So I'm sure that,
Yeah.
I could see where a lot of people would get kind of hung up on that.
Absolutely. And I really learned that from working with adult literacy students and teenagers who dropped out of high school. That's where I got a lot of my chops as a writing teacher. So I'm really familiar with that feeling of I can't, or I won't, or I shouldn't. Someone told me I'm not good enough. And we all have that in us, unfortunately. Um, but creativity really is a gift that we deserve to give ourselves. And like I keep saying, I can't say it enough. Our dreams reinforce that we have stories to tell, that we're creative, that we're prolific.
So what if someone comes up and they have just a fabulous dream? It's sounds like a great story, and they want to put this into poetry, but they've never done poetry before. Where do they start?
So many places to start. So people get very intimidated by poetry, unfortunately. But I think we're less intimidated by music because, again, we listened to it, we discovered it for ourselves as children. So don't think about it as a poem. Don't call it a poem. At its most basic element, a poem is an image and an emotion. So start there. And, you can read some poems to get inspiration, or you can just play on the page with the musicality of what you're writing. You don't need to add music literally, but just use your ear to listen. Where might this line break? Where is there a pause? And just think of poetry more as playing and, take away some of the sort of esoteric mysteriousness that surrounds the form. And, for example, one of the classic poetry forms, the sonnet. The word sonnet comes from the root son, S-O-N, which is for song. So think of it as music, maybe, and that will release some of that heaviness around the idea of poetry.
Another great way to move forward there. Well, and so the people that you work with, the dream workers and the writers and both, is it important that they have community?
Oh my goodness. Yes. I love that you brought that up. In so many cultures, probably every culture, when you trace it back to its indigenous roots, there was a tradition of sharing stories around a circle and also sharing dreams around a circle. So stories and dreams are meant to be shared. And so community, finding yourself a dream circle or a writing circle, or I offer dreaming on the page circles on Zoom, of course, and there are instructions on my book about how to start one of your own. But yes, even if it just starts, and I'm going to take the word just out of this sentence because that diminishes it, even if it starts with your family, telling your partner your dreams or asking your kids about their dreams or sharing something you've written, even by putting it on the refrigerator in your home, starting to make it more public and starting to have that intention of reaching out to other people through stories and poetry and dreams is really beautiful because they are meant to be shared.
I really was impressed with the title of your website, and I'd love for you to share how you obtained that.
My website and my business are called Third House Moon, and that came to me in a dream. I had a dream where a woman handed me a flyer, and I looked down at the flyer and it said Third House Moon, and it was advertising something. And I looked at the woman and I said, "What's that?" And she said, "That's the name of your business." This was before I had my business. "That's the name of your business and it will be successful." And so I woke up and didn't know much about astrology. I still don't know much about it, but I looked up, what does Third House Moon mean? And apparently, the elements, when one has their moon in the third house of their astrological chart, has to do with things like intuition, communication, teaching, authentic communication. It just fits so perfectly. It's like, that's it. That's the name of my business, Third House Moon.
I just love that. I thought that was such a great, great example of how things can really come forward.
Yes. Yes. Our dreams are there to inspire us. And so many stories, songs, inventions came to people in their dreams that I just love to sort of be the Joni Appleseed of dreams, to remind people that they have this rich inner resource that they can look to and that can guide them and help them trust their own intuition and creativity. And it just makes life a little more meaningful and magical and fun.
Well, couldn't we all use a little bit of that? My goodness. Now, with the people you work with, do most of them, get their work to a place where it's published? Do they keep it for themselves? What does that look like?
Yeah, the whole gamut, really. So I have a dream circle coming up, and the people who've signed up so far, we have a published author, we have somebody who's just discovering herself as a writer, we have people in there they just like to write in their journal. The only place they ever share their writing is in our circles. So we have pretty much the whole gamut, because again, writing is for everybody. It's not just for the elite few who published books. And then what I really love is the people who've discovered themselves as writers through these classes, and through this book and process. People who never really thought of themselves as writers just came as a way to spend time with their dreams. And since then have, embarked on writing stories. And I have one woman in England who's writing a whole collection. And I definitely see her coming out with a book one of these days.
Such exciting news.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
You kind of get to watch that whole progression.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting.
So what do you want our listeners to take away from your book and your work?
Yeah. So the main message is that everybody dreams. Everybody has a story to tell. And it is your birthright to connect with all these parts of yourselves. So I really do hope people will take a look at the book, Dreaming on the Page, or get in touch with me. Or it doesn't have to be me or my book, just to start writing down your dreams. I mean, your journal can become your own book of inspiration. So I really hope people will feel empowered in that way, that this is for them.
Well, Tzivia, where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about your work?
Well, as you mentioned, my website is called Third House Moon, and you write that out, THIRD, House Moon, or just look up dreamingonthepage.com.
Tzivia, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Oh, it's a delight, Marianne. Thank you so much. Thank you for the beautiful work that you're doing with readers and writers and connecting people. It's really wonderful.
Well, thank you, Tzivia. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Dreaming on the Page. Tap into your midnight mind to supercharge your writing. Dreaming on the Page is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And remember, support our indie bookstores. If you don't see it on the shelf, just ask for them to order it. Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick moment, and we'll be right back after these messages. So do you have a small business or book that you think should be on the radio, and the social media algorithms have changed so much that you just can't connect with your target market? Well, you're not alone. That's why so many people are choosing to advertise on radio. KMET is part of the 25th largest U.S. radio market in Southern California. The Moments with Marianne radio show is also available everywhere online after it airs on KMET. With over 800 episodes available, downloaded in over 78 countries, we're the #1 choice for advertising books and small businesses. So visit my website at mariannepastana.com for more information on how you can advertise on KMET AM/FM. I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.